Think about bullying. You probably get some tropes in your mind. We wondered about this. Like, why do we label someone the bully? Why do we label someone the victim? One of the key decisions we made was about labeling this as a behaviour, not an identity. We give everyone the opportunity to change.
People will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. My first ever Facebook post was, "Can anyone see this?" Like, I really remember.
When we talk about the topic of bullying, something comes to mind. We are aware that this is occurring. And what I would love us to do is unpack for a moment. If we could give some strategies to people listening, what do we do in response to that? Podclass acknowledges the traditional and true custodians of the land we meet on here today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We're grateful to be here.
So no one told you teaching was gonna be this way. Your lesson plans are jokes, your patience broke, you're feeling in disarray. It's like you're always stuck in report writing, when it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your school year. But I'll be here for you
when the students start to riot.
I'll be here for you
even if your coffee's gone cold.
I'll be here for you, 'cause you're there for them too.
Hello and welcome back to Podclass. You are joined as always by me. Hi, it's Skye, co-founder of Youth Engagement Project. I'm joined by the wonderful Amanda Marshall.
Hello, it's me.
And Will Masara.
Hello, I am here too. And we have a friend.
We do have a friend.
2 weeks in a row we have
so
friends.
Stoked. We have Lucy Thomas joining us once again in the studio. Hello, Lucy.
Bring it on. Hello, everyone.
And we are going to just do a little bit of an intro to give context. If anyone hasn't listened to last week's episode, please go back. It was a super, super important one, all about the social media ban and what to expect. But Lucy is the co-founder and CEO of Project Rockit, Australia's youth-led movement against bullying, hate and prejudice. We are huge fans. You are a lifelong advocate for young people. Lucy has designed and delivered programs that empower students to lead change online and offline and has been globally recognised for this impact. Lucy founded Project Rockit alongside their sister Rosie, which has partnered with major platforms to help schools build kinder, braver communities backed by tools, real talk and student voice. We are super excited to have Lucy once again with us today to talk about all things bullying, which is a really big and important and really fat topic to get into that's impacting not just young people here in Australia, but everywhere.
And has always impacted everyone.
Yeah.
We were just talking about the fact that next year Project Rockit turns 20, which is such a huge achievement.
I know, it's such a
We
long
want you to
time.
take us back to the summer of 2006.
What made you and Ro start this mission?
Yeah, I'm rewind 2006. So back then, I think Ro had really just finished school. I'd just finished up a creative arts degree and I'd majored in painting. So like not a hugely vocational choice there.
Super aligned with anti-bullying programs.
Right. But it was also a really interesting time. I remember sitting with Ro actually on a park bench in the foreshore by the ocean talking about school, you know, reflecting on what it had been like for her, what it was like for me. We had really different experiences of school, really different kind of year levels. I wouldn't say I was extremely badly bullied or anything like that. People often ask that. But like anyone, I experienced the knocks and blows of people not knowing how to communicate or be kind. And I certainly finished school thinking about the experiences of others. What was really stood out to me was an accumulation of moments at the end of high school. You know, those moments when you see something you don't agree with and you get that gut feeling something's wrong. In the moment, you have to decide, do I use my voice or do I stand by watching? Do I laugh along and just for the acceptance of others? You have those moments. And I remember my very first moment actually like that. I was in grade 5 and growing up, like I wasn't like the other kids in my primary school. I was probably expected to hang out with the other girls in the year level and I was probably more like the boys in the year level. But I remember that like wanting to be one of the boys, you never really were. And so it was quite, like I remember we're choosing sports teams and I was always chosen last, even though I was quite good at sport, or I'd be friends with the guys individually, but when they're in a group, they kind of had to be a bit rough and, you know, tough. But I remember this one day when I saw a group of guys who I was actually friends with picking on another kid in my year level about his culture and his ethnicity. And I remember it was the first time I'd seen someone deliberately be horrible to someone else, to be racist. And I was horrified. I was outraged. I couldn't believe it. I was frozen and tears were welling in my eyes. And I went home and told my mum about it, and I was expecting her to like fix it, like go and tell the principal or whatever. And she just asked me, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about this?
Wow.
And so, yeah, that was the first of many of those moments. And I guess we started talking about that, and that even though we'd had really different experiences of school, we'd experienced those moments. And we'd also finished school and seen the way that some kids like ourselves were actually well equipped to step out into the next chapter of life, whereas others seemed to drop off the face of the earth. And they'd learned, they'd started out high school as that excited, engaged kid who'd put their hand up and be part of it. And by the end, they'd have withdrawn and they'd have gotten the message that they had to change who they are, And I just remember thinking it would be so easy to change that, and, that actually the world would be better if we learnt young how to stand up for each other and what we believe in, and that kindness was cool and the norm. You don't have to be tough to gain acceptance. And but there was nothing like that when we started out. And so, we started Project Rockit not as an organization or as a movement. I mean, nothing's a movement when it starts, right? Yeah. But as a project, hence the term Project Rockit. So we did a bunch of research and practiced a lot and went and got an ABN. We knew we should do something like that.
Sounds familiar.
As you do. I think Dad told us how to do that. And then we just, started going into schools and having the conversations we wish we'd had, and trying to run anti-bullying programs that were really like anti-bullying programs, like anti-bullying programs that, flipped the script and were wildly energetic and, actually trusted students to be the experts on their own lives. And around the time though, well, it's just so simple. But as a young person, that that's what's going to work. I guess the catch is that this was 2006. So it was also around the dawn of social media and, with it, the rise of adult concern about issues like cyberbullying and the kind of generational divide that meant that teachers needed young people to help with this issue. And I guess that's what fueled the growth of Project Rockit.
So curious to know then, like, you're turning birthday's 20 next year. What has changed in terms of the landscape? Like, what have we seen in terms of bullying, both on and offline? How has the fact that, we've become an ever more online culture and society impacted that across that time?
And I imagine there are some things that are similar and some things that are drastically different. That's in my imagination. But what's in reality?
Well, there's been change, like, obviously for us as people, change. And we were growing up through this, movement as well.
My first ever Facebook post was, "Can anyone see this?" Like, I really remember.
That is so
I really remember that transition into that online space. Yeah.
I mean, so a lot has changed. I'd say the landscape that, when we started out, I didn't know what a social enterprise was. Yeah. I had never heard the term.
It existed in 2006.
I don't know either.
You were trendy before it was a trend.
Well, or just like archaic. I'm just really, really old. So, I predate social enterprise. What? But I didn't know what youth-led or youth-driven was. It wasn't seen as a strength.
Yeah.
And so, one of the incredible things that teachers have pioneered, that youth workers, that peak bodies, that like little youth projects that have popped up and become something massive, bigger than they ever knew they could be, is an ethos of understanding and listening to young people. So that's the first thing that's changed. Of course, technology's been massive, good ways and bad. We've seen, strangely, the very instrument that fueled the growth of online bullying has actually fueled the growth of young people's literacy about diversity and has provided healthier representation, whether it be cultural or body norms or, it's provided a much more globally literate generation. So, it's certainly all of the good, the bad and the ugly has been wrapped up together. I have to say, like, COVID was massive for the education sector, obviously, and for young people. And I remember we were all, like, there were a lot of hype in the news at the time around what will be the long-term impacts of this on young people. And now we're starting to kind of see them and see that, not to mention on teachers. Which is, so there's been so many changes. I think, like a big one for us was realizing that we weren't young people anymore. That was an important one because we actually had to develop a methodology to be youth-driven. It's not just a matter of being youth-led. And actually, what does it look like to be a social enterprise that recruits and trains young people? How is our workshop methodology elevating the expertise of the students in the room while being curriculum aligned? how do we actually develop a model, our National Youth Collective, which invites people into our organisation as paid lived experience experts, even though they're currently living it as teens. So there's just been so much along the way, I guess. We've also seen a rise of like inclusion politics and diversity literacy, and then also this sudden smackdown of polarisation and division that's happened recently.
Yep.
So it's just, have to talk about social media algorithms and the way that they've connected, more and more young people in isolated and regional communities with their tribe, their community, but simultaneously have exposed young men who are vulnerable to isolation, to toxic voices. And, there's been so many forces that have shaped it. It's been fascinating.
If you are looking to support the young people in your school or your community to develop their public speaking skills, Youth Engagement Project facilitates public speaking workshops for young people. We follow our 4C public speaking framework, where we explore courage, communication, clarity, and connection, the skills and tools aligned with all 4 of those C's that are essential for effective public speaking skills and communication in general. Give us a call or send us a message.
What are you hearing, like, in terms of Project Rockit and the work that you're currently doing in schools and broader communities? Like, what have been the messages? Like, what are teachers after? What are young people wanting? Like, what gap or where does Project Rockit step in?
Yeah, I think the comment we most often get from students at the end of a Project Rockit workshop is, I thought that was going to be really boring, but like when they told us we had to do a workshop on cyberbullying, we thought, or when, in the middle of a workshop, you see students from another class peeking to try and see what's going on in the room. Like, I love that. That's awesome. For teachers, the conversation is often, I don't know where you were going with that for a while. Because, sometimes the expectation is that we come in and we cut straight to the meat of how do young people stay safe online? Why is bullying harmful? But we try and
you actually build some relatedness first.
Yeah.
Which is maybe not what they expect, or maybe elevate their voices in the process as well.
I think it's probably an expectation that sits in the school system, right? Totally. Is that we've got to get straight to the learning outcomes. And I guess for us, the how is just so important. And that's where we learn so much from you guys.
It's the difference between talking at and being with young people.
Yeah.
And this is where Project Rockit, and I mean, we have had the privilege of working with some of your team and they are incredible. Obviously, you select people that have so gifted in terms of the connections that they form with young people, in terms of their ability to elevate youth voice that's in the room when they're going into schools. And all these things are so incredibly important. And they're also people that young people can see themselves in, which is like role modeling piece is just fundamental to, the progress that we're trying to have in this space.
Yeah, I think like what we're often told is that the power of having a young person at the front of the room, this is something that teachers routinely say is, that it's really hard when you're the person who's teaching and tucking in your shirt and that kind of thing to then also come in with the I'm interested in your life, and even though they are, it's really difficult to be perceived on that level. And sometimes when we do long-term kind of feedback surveys, the young person might not remember the exact strategy they were given to tackle bullying. They might not remember like the way that their peers' behaviour changed after that. What they will remember is the moment where I realised I had a voice because I saw that person at the front of the room, or because they didn't just come and shove messaging down our throat. They asked me for my voice and I used it. They challenged me. They created friction where I had to work out, do I sit here or there? I had to make choices for the first time. And so I think that's the role that we play. Huge props and kudos to teachers, because I could never be one of those, man. And I think they're amazing.
And I think when you can agitate and create friction in a really safe way, so we're doing that in a psychologically safe way for young people to be able to find their edge and push and explore those boundaries and maybe the ideas that they've had in their heads or the stories they've been telling themselves they've seen playing out in their school environments, like that is so powerful. And like, of course, we're big believers in that quote, that Maya Angelou quote, that people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that so much of Project Rockit's work is that. It's that feeling that young people are left with when they leave. Yeah.
And I think when we talk about the topic of bullying, I mean, for each and every one of us, something comes to mind, or probably a range of things come to mind. It's possibly an experience we've had, whether that be in our own school experience or as an adult being, left out or being a bully ourselves. And then we also probably think about experiences of young people that we've worked with or young people that are our children or whomever it is. And so I think we are aware that this is occurring in our landscape. And what I would love us to do is unpack for a moment if we could give some strategy, some advice to people listening around what do we do in response to that? Whether it's a young person that takes a moment to share that they're having a struggle with something, whether it's an individual's personal experience of being marginalized. Like what are some of your best, I guess, tips or tools, or how can we support bullying in the programs and schools that we work in?
Yeah, it's a huge question. I think one of the key decisions we made early on that was just an intuitive one was about labeling this as a behavior, not an identity. So let me explain what I mean by that. We hear a lot.
This is good.
When you think about bullying, right, you probably get some tropes in your mind of like the high school jock and the, that kind of thing.
100%. And media
Stereotypes.
amplifies that, right? It's what we see played out all the time. We turn on a Netflix show and it's right there in your face.
Absolutely. Or the stock image of like someone crying over their phone while blurred out people like laughing point, like that whole thing. But actually like, we wondered about this growing up, like why do we label someone the bully? Why do we label someone the victim? Like how is that helpful? Those are horrible stereotypes and they're going to follow a person around, as we know labels do throughout school. So one key, I think, approach we can take is by treating bullying as a behavior. That's the first thing. Like we give everyone the opportunity to change. I might have
strengths-based approach, right? Yeah.
And that a lot of the time early on, if someone acts out of bullying behaviour, for the most part, it's because they don't have the skills to engage in a healthy way yet. So if we entrench that and we say that's bullying and you're a bully, how are they going to develop those skills?
I love the yet. It's like so empowering. It's such a growth mindset piece. It's like they don't have the skills yet or the ability yet. And it's so important.
Right. And so I think that's a really important part. The second aspect, the federal government's actually doing at the moment and rapid review into anti-bullying. They've just released their report and we made a submission co-written with our National Youth Collective, so a cohort of 12 to 20-year-old young people. And one of the things they told us was that adult definitions of bullying are way off the mark. Most of them were designed back in like the 80s by academics. And, the core definition of bullying is that it's repeated, it involves imbalance of power, and it happens deliberately. It's intentional. Now, for young people living in 2025, where, bullying can be a blend of online behaviours acted out by one person, stacks on from the audience, they flow back into the schoolyard. One young person described it as a climate of unsafety in the classroom. It doesn't necessarily have to be one person. And so that's another issue, is that we need to really understand, start by leading with young people's experience.
And reevaluate what it means to have an experience of bullying.
Right. That we heard from young people who said that I'm not even going to come forward because I know adults don't think my experience is bullying, even though what they described were very clear cases of discrimination, harassment, racism, misogyny, whatever it might be. So that's really important. I think that the other area that really stood out to me was around how adults respond. That one kid said, when you come forward and tell a teacher you're being bullied, the last thing you want is for them to go full department on you. Where they pull out the policy, the 5-step plan. It's instantly out of your control in your hands. And it's fantastic that Australian schools have a robust policy framework, but a lot of young people experience this as actually decentering them. And they talked about instances where schools cause more harm than good, where it further exacerbates the bullying they're experiencing. So what can we do? Well, we can listen to young people. We can support them. We can empower them. We can start early before there's a problem. We can look at protective factors, like how can we help the kids in our year level feel connected to each other? How can we start with connection? How can we help students learn their values, so that if you have a value of fairness and justice, how can you be calling on that in the moment when you need to decide whether to use your voice or stand by watching? So, it's much more complex than putting an anti-bullying poster up on the wall. And it's really challenging. These are really pervasive issues that have existed well before the advent of TikTok or Instagram. And so, it's about taking like a well-rounded approach that centers young people.
And young people are so smart and they're so worthy of having programs that are really supportive in this way, that aren't these tokenistic ticker box. All right, we've run a wellbeing session this week and we've described what a bully is and what a victim is. So if you're feeling like that's happening to you, please come and speak to your year level coordinator. Like it's not in any way effective, and it's not listening to what young people need right now. Like the climate has drastically changed. We need to be responding to it accordingly. So thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for like you and your team for like really leading the way in the conversations and amplifying young people's voices in this. Like we love seeing Project Rockit go from strength to strength, and believe so much in the work that you're doing to amplify the voices of young people. Just thank you.
There's so much online. Project Rockit has so many resources. So there's lots to access.
School, into your everywhere.
Hey, can I really quickly just say one other thing that I don't know that teachers get to hear? So everywhere I go, I meet people, and when I tell them what I do, they tell me about their experience of being bullied. It doesn't matter whether they're in school, 40 years out of school. Yeah. People tell me their experiences. And I was actually just at a party on the weekend. Believe it or not, I sometimes go to a party. And it was just, the conversations were just doing the rounds of these different experiences. But what people kept telling me made a difference so often was a single teacher.
Wow.
I was thinking about that because as the teacher, you'd never know that years later your students would be telling some random at a party about how they went through this horrific experience, but what got them through was a single adult. And in every case, they didn't create a big solution. They didn't solve the problem. They listened and they found small ways like walking the student to the bus stop or making sure they had a safe spot to eat their lunch, coming with them on yard duty, that kind of thing. So I just wanted to a shout out to what teachers are already doing is just blows my mind. It's amazing.
Thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you so much for being here today. And if we just listen and implement some of those strategies that you've shared, we can make a difference and be those memorable people that change the course for young people. So thank you everyone for being with us. We will be back with you next week with the Podclass.
Bye.
I'll be here for you, 'cause you're there for them too.
Thanks so much for tuning into Podclass. If you've enjoyed this episode, we would adore it if you could go on to Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and leave us a review. 5 stars would be lovely. We would love to get this podcast into as many ears as possible so we can help and support as many people as possible who help young people. And if you're not already doing so, please go along to Instagram and follow us at podclass.aus.